Hello, welcome back to the third session of the video podcast series that wants or pretend to present you what is going to be SEO or search in general. So to help you understanding the next step, the strategic step, the tactical step that maybe are not going to be super popular in this moment, but yes, you will hear a lot in the incoming month. Today we are going to talk about international SEO, but most probably not only of international SEO, with probably one of the best experts in this field. This person is the global managing director of SEM International, or as Italians would pronounce it, SEM International, and also the group CEO of Digital International Group. I'm talking of the very gentle, kind, and friendly Michael Bonfils. Hi, Michael. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Gianluca?
I'm fine. I am fine. In this moment that we are recording this episode, it's the end of the day, but it's a mild day here in Spain. So the spring is blooming. We are going slowly to the summer. So the best season, let's say.
Yeah, I love this season too. So, I wish I was there, to be honest with you. Even
Yeah.
though our California weather's pretty nice. Today it's a
Yeah.
little gloomy, but normally it's been really lots of new flowers and fresh air and sunshine and
What I hope
it,
that
right.
the problem with the fire is not going to come back again for you, because I remember. Oh well, you're in what part of California
Yeah,
are
yeah.
you?
I'm in Southern California where the fire's
Okay.
not too far from me, but fires is just kind of a normal thing. It's just, we get them every year. We just don't know where. And this last year, it was a little bit worse than it seemed like a little unprepared in the northern LA area where, the fire kind of,
Yeah.
it was like this. We don't usually get tornadoes, which is massive, like winds. We don't usually get that. And we got that during a fire season and we're set up to put fires out with helicopters and all that stuff. We weren't set up to have a wind that would blow a plane out of the sky. So we could not stop these flames from burning down an entire city.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well, and about fires, let's talk about the fires. We are
yeah.
living
If I,
in the search landscape. How is
yeah.
search treating you in these last month, if not years, of really
Yeah.
fast change?
The look on your face probably summarizes a lot of how I'm feeling about it. It's just, I think some people here know my background. I've been in the space since the beginning. So 1996, 1995, geez, 94, 95, I was logging in with Yahoo when it was just a little tiny project, really. And so I'm not trying to go back and tout my history, but I've just seen so much. And on that date, I think it was November 30th, 2022, that Pandora's box being opened with ChatGPT. The moment I saw that, I'm like, okay, this is the absolute most disruptive thing our industry's ever going to see. This is such a game changer. And I try to express it as much as I can to everybody I can, as fast as I can. And I got a lot of resistance. And everything that I kept pushing and saying and talking about, it continued to come through. It continued to come out and say, okay, well, shoot, maybe traffic is in jeopardy. Maybe publishers are in jeopardy with their content. Maybe Google's not ready for this either. It's that kind of stuff. And as an agency owner, I've seen the impact of that. And I've seen the impact of other agencies, consultants included, on top of an environment where we went from very expensive, hard to get employees into the marketing realm to all of a sudden a bad economy, people getting laid off. This AI stuff comes in place. It was just it was almost that perfect firestorm that we saw in LA. It was just like, wow, everything all at once. We really got to hunker down and rethink our business model and our strategies. And that's, that's pretty much where we are now. The only difference is in the past, for example, when social came on board, we can wrap our heads around it and follow it, and we would be able to slowly adopt it. Here in this world, you adopt something now, it's gone in a month. Yeah, there's a new technology out there that just eliminated what you just did in a month. And so it's coming so fast. Every time you catch up, you're behind again. We all know this in the SEO space because it's always been the case. Every time you finally got ranked and we're back down again when there's another update. But at least we had some breathing time. Now we don't have any breathing time. It's just like boom, 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 boom. So that's kind of in summary, what I'm dealing with, all that's going on.
Yes, and the updates didn't stop, so everything is adding up, and I live the same feeling. Maybe I'm not such a large story as a professional in SEO as yours, because I started 10 years later, but in time to live on my skin the Florida update. Yes, I mean, there were these big news like universal search is coming, contact, like that was a great change
Yeah.
too. Or yes, you were saying social media and all the foods about social media and how part of more in the sense of budget allocation, not really in
Mhm.
terms of work, what social media and the importance and attention given to social media as a channel, marketing channel,
Yeah.
took part of a budget from search to social media. And yes, but it was always at least more or less we were living in the same ecosystem, which was our loved and day-trade Google. And now it's different because maybe in this case, maybe we are lucky because we
Mhm.
lived in a world as when we are always saying, I say always to my sons, and I think you do the same with yours. We lived in years where the mobile phones wasn't existing or
Yeah.
where the internet wasn't existing and you were going to really to the library. But we also, as a professional, yes, you say you work with these things. First tiny experiment when it was called Yahoo. I lived
Mhm.
also that moment, the last part of this spread of this multifaceted search environment. And probably we are living, it's harder for the SEO week, my king define this person like the millennial and Z generation SEO. So the ones that
Mhm.
didn't work on this multifaceted aspect of search. But yes, maybe it's something that we should rewire with all the updated things that we have to that consideration that the search journey anymore on Google, even if we consider Google not only as Google search, but also as YouTube,
Mhm.
as Maps, as other things in the Google ecosystem. So,
Yeah.
and this
Yeah.
is what the radical shift. No, I don't think that this
It is.
expansion
I,
and
I
this,
I agree so much with what you said. It is a radical shift and it's a change. It's how we do things. Uh, Let me kind of step back a little bit to something I just alluded to. And I alluded to Google wasn't prepared for this. Okay. We weren't prepared for it. It's hard for us to accept how the hell was Google not prepared for this? They've been doing this for this long. And it's like, no, they were not prepared for it. They were not prepared for the quickness of this. And Google is our bread and butter. They are our partner and this is like finding out that, oh shit, mom has cancer. And that's the one thing that I think that our industry had to kind of realize that Google isn't perfect. It doesn't, still has problems as a business. It is facing a whole different change, a disruptive change to their business model. And so now we've got to kind of look back and see, okay, well, how is Google going to fight this off? How are they going to cure this cancer? How are they going to stay relevant? And in the same time, how do we survive? And we need to look at a lot of different areas. And we have to also look at ourselves and we have to think for ourselves that, you know what, maybe it's time to not just sit here and come up with theories and be sad or overblow this. Maybe we should embrace it and we start thinking of technologies and thinking of ways of how can I help Google? They've helped me all this time. How do I help Google? How do I partner with them better? How do I make my content, or how do I become better with AI overviews or whatever system they're going to come up with next? How do we do that? And, they're kind of stuck in the same place as we are. And rather than fight it off, maybe we should look at it and embrace it. And I think those that embrace it are really going to be the survivors at the end of this big disruptive change that we're in the middle of right now. I mean, that's kind of what my thoughts are.
I totally agree. And when I was listening to you, was coming when I was very young, still in university. I was really lucky to have Umberto Eco as my professor at university. And it was coming to my mind, one of his books, it was Apocalittics and Integrated. It's a book that was only partly translated in English. And it's the vision of culture, popular culture seen by both totally with a negative view and both with a totally positive view. Somehow, I think that we are living in this kind of situation. Or they are the ones that are totally with a negative vision of the future, and ones that are seeing only the positive part of the future. I don't want to call them with the meme definition of AI bros, but these can be the maximum of AI bros. Everything is going to be perfect with AI overview. Or, for instance, you are going to receive hundreds of better leads with ChatGPT visibility. So let's be realistic. It's neither going to be a disaster and neither going to be the AI paradise some people are painting. So let's talk about, for instance, you were saying AI overview. I'm here in Spain, just substantially 1 month ago. AI overview finally or sadly, again with this manichaeist vision of AI, was introduced in the European Community countries because it was already present in the UK. As an agency that works in international SEO, how much you have seen your clients targeting European countries, for instance, seeing the impact of AI overview, or somehow, even if like when Panda was rolled out with 7 months of distance in Europe with respect to the US, or you were already preparing them to this situation. So they, probably had been impacted, but not as many others that didn't do anything.
Yeah. So let me kind of break this down a little bit. So one thing that I do quite a bit with is I look at, I'm just going to go to some notes here, some trend data. So I look at trend data that we've been tracking with our clients for years. And a lot of this trend data is in paid and organic, like many people know. They do work hand in hand. And there's a lot of data you can get from paid that you can share with organic and vice versa. I'm not going to go into that because we all know this, but the trend data is the one data that I've been following. And with Google, the trend data is something I look at quite a bit, and that is click-through rates, average click-through rates across all industries and clients, and average volume numbers across clients, as well as CPCs. So CPCs being an indicator as well, but rather than, if we can take the CPCs out, since we're talking about organic SEO stuff, click volume 2 years ago, our benchmark was 141. Now our benchmark is 134. So we have definitely seen volume actually go down. At the same time, in other, like historically, when we saw volume come down, we actually saw click-through rates go up. So we saw more people searching for more quality, even though the volume was down. But now our click-through rates, our average click-through rates are about, I'm trying to find the worst year, probably almost as worst. The level we're at now is the worst time in 2019 during the pandemic. And prior to that, it was never that bad. So we are at the worst levels on click-through rates that we've ever seen, as well as the volume going down is such a historic drop over 2 years. If you want to throw the CPC factor in, the CPCs historically higher than they have been for years. So now we've got this perfect problem. Click-through rates down, volume down, CPCs up. What does that mean? ROI is getting hit, and clients are leaning on organic to try to make up for whatever downfall there is, and they can't find it. They can't find the traffic. So to answer your question, do the trends show that now that we're going into Europe now with AI overviews in Europe, are they impacting things? 100%. And they'll continue to change. Now, there's a lot of things that Google is changing, on how they're going to mitigate this. And one of them is, let's see, I want to find the right term with what they're calling it, and I don't want to make a mistake in that AI mode. I should know that. So AI
Oh,
mode
yes.
tab. Have you seen the AI mode tab?
Yes, I actually
Mhm.
I have it. I must use the VPN to see it, but I was able to see it almost the same day they roll out. I was really fast in asking
Awesome.
to embark into the beta testing.
Yeah.
And yes, it's evolving very fast. And honestly, this is what in the conversation that I had with Cindy Graham, we were saying, hey, this how Google is testing AI mode is exactly the same way it tested SG and then roll out AI overview. So for me
Yes.
and Cindy, and for you watchers, you can see the conversation that I had with Cindy Graham in the Advanced Web Ranking blog. Our theory is that ultimately Google will push AI mode as the default search.
That is, you're 100% right. You know where I'm going with this, and I'm glad
Yeah,
that we
but
got this.
we were also saying that there is also this discussion how Google can monetize AI. And we were saying, actually, if AI mode is very personalized, so strict, super personalized, it's even better
Mhm.
for PPC because PPC with Performance Max and all the AI driven advertisements opportunities that it has is going to
Mhm.
be really fitting into it. So
Yeah.
Google already knows how to do it, but it's scared to push people from one situation to another. So that's why also in Google,
Mhm.
we are living this sort of passage. We have these strange search results pages
Mhm.
with the block of AI on the top,
Mhm.
then the classic SERP, which was already cluttered, and now it's even more cluttered.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's what I'm thinking too. So AI overviews for sure is going to change. And when you go into this new format and know that, okay, this is what the future of Google is probably going to look like. It's going to be a chat experience, not really a search experience. That means we're no longer going to use the keyword model that we've been used to. And I think we know that, and now it becomes a conversation piece. Yeah, there it will probably build out. We're yet to know. I think it's in a couple weeks or maybe a month or so where they're going to introduce all the different new ad types and everything that's going to be built into this AI system. So we're anxiously waiting that and hoping that it's going to be great, and it most likely will be. Google historically has done a really good job at PMAX and some of the innovative things they come up with on the paid side. But the organic side, there is a area that I am struggling with, Gianluca, and that is zero click. So zero click is, for those audience members who don't know what that means, that zero click means, it means when you are having a conversation with AI, for example, I'm trying to compare two different running shoes and I'm having this, what's going to be better for me? I run on gravel and so forth. I'm having a conversation with AI, and AI is pooling and referencing, of course, whatever winning schema formats, content out there, it's be able to capitalize on and have this conversation with me. But it's zero click. It's not going to your site. It's not going there. So without this data, that really affects my organic content strategy. And this is, we have a funnel, we all know, which is the awareness, consideration phase, and the whole center. And then finally, the purchase stage. The consideration stage is the critical side of our funnel. We're not getting the data. How are we going to get the data? I've searched everywhere and everything is assumptive on zero-click data. So who is going to provide that? Is Google going to eventually provide that? Would they provide that? How would they provide that? But that's very important information that I need because I need to know what that conversation is about. I need to know what two people are talking about, that I'm talking about the comparison of shoes here and here, because my entire content strategy in the center of my funnel depends on that greatly.
I think that we had this sort of this same question recently at the Madrid Research Center with the Googles
Mhm.
and Apocalittici Mueller. There were also the people involved in AI and involved especially in as product engineer for Search Console. Obviously, the question when you are going to offer us a filter view as we have now, performance, search, discover, and use also for AI. And the answer was no now because we are still testing it. We still don't know what is going to be. But I think it would be problematic. I think that they have a structural problem in how to measure it. Because how can you talk of average position or answer that are created on the fly?
Yeah.
And
Where does positioning go?
I mean, we have many tools. One of them is advanced web ranking that is testing a tool for
Mhm.
AI visibility. And usually the position is based on, classically also AI overview. If you click on the super small, tiny icon of a link, you can see all the sources listed on the right. And so the position is calculated and in the classic ranking way by all the tools that are testing and trying to measure the visibility on AI environment. But I think that maybe visibility, which was once a metric that was somehow used as generically, maybe it's going to be our main metric in the sense, okay, we can set up representative queries that can represent more than one query. So
Yeah.
representative query set and say, okay, for this query, all this set of queries, we have this average visibility and comparing, especially against our direct competitor. Maybe this is going to be because maybe we cannot even attribute anything in terms of traffic, if not just the direct traffic that is by the click, but maybe all our works in terms of visibility. So being busy making our clients and our own website visible in all the potential journeys that this conversation with AI can generate is going to bring us, obviously, zero click because the conversation is going to be longer. So it's not anymore search and click, and maybe eventually just a second click, a second search, and a second
Yeah.
click impression. But maybe this is visibility is the way also to say being visible in this way, we have generated this traffic directly attributable to us, but also we saw an increase of traffic to pages that are visible on AI search. So we can create correlation at least. Maybe
Yeah.
this the only way that we are going to have to really measure to our clients the kind of success that we have.
Yeah.
And trying to make this correlation work with conversion. Because at the end of the
Yeah.
day, our clients don't give a frack about the traffic if a traffic is not converting.
You're 100% right. And that's the thing is our model or SEO business model has been based on keywords, data around keywords, and strategy around keywords. Now keywords are gone. So what is replacing keywords and how are we going to do this from this point forward, especially on a global level, right? The only answer I can come up with on that is FAQs being the keyword. So let's take the whole question and as many questions as possible that come up to whatever your product is. That whole FAQ and the answers, the question and the answers becomes the keyword that we all optimize on moving forward. That's the only way I could see it because that's going to be part of the conversation. So let's tie this, what I just said, into international SEO when it comes to localization. And this is actually very interesting and timely in a way for this. So years ago, I think it was, I don't know if it was HP or Lenovo, one of them, they were a client that came through and they came to us and said, "Hey, your agency are like, we need to localize all the FAQs, optimize all the FAQs for Germany." And we're like, "Great. Okay. Let's do the briefing." And in the briefing, it said, "Okay, what tone that you want your German audience to understand with your responses to your FAQs? Is it more formalized? Is it more relaxed? What is the tone?" And they wanted to go, and the agency, I think, was the one responsible for this, they're like, "You know what? Let's just mirror it to how it is in the US, make it more informal, more relaxed, more cool, more friendly." And we did all of that work. And that work was great. And we shared it with them. They said, "Okay, this should be easily signed off," sent it over to the German partners, and they just about crapped their pants. Never, ever do FAQs an informal way in Germany and the German language. They expect everything to be in the formal tone, and the work had to be done all over again. So that's kind of now, that was years ago, and it was an expensive lesson that agency learned by getting the briefs right, making sure that they talk to their client. Now we have a whole different world with international SEO. It goes with a couple things that we probably alluded on a little bit. One is AI in itself, LLMs, all of the tools and technologies that you have, we all know greatly enhances us as a consultant, right? We can actually implement big projects without a lot of hands, maybe a lot of proofreaders, but without a lot of hands. There's a lot of stuff we can do now by ourselves that we couldn't do 3 or 4 years ago. Fantastic. But when we're doing this by ourselves, do we know the reality that the tone in Germany is formal versus maybe Spain is informal, and all of these other parameters that we don't think about? And the other question is really to how Google sees things, right? We'll take Spanish as a good example of that. So you've got Mexican Spanish, Argentinian Spanish, Spain Spanish, Colombian Spanish. There's going to be countries and cultures where the formality and informality and the tone and how they speak and words they use need to be really aligned. Is Google going to get that when they have these conversations in the future AI mode of search, right? So this is something that I'm pondering. How is Google going to accept
Well,
it?
I hope so. I mean, he never was really able to do it. I mean, it's really talking about deep research, AMO that Google is not still able to understand when we implement the hreflang. So
Yeah.
we could use the AI overview AI in order to really understand our implementation of hreflang, and so not presenting a Mexican website in Spain or a UK website in the US or Canada. But I think that in this case, I want to ask you one question about a really recent move Google did, and substantially is going to sunset the regional ccTLD, like google.es, google.co.uk, and putting everything under the .com. Same, it wanted to say immediately, but depending on your location, blah, 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 you will be served with your localized search results. Somehow, because maybe I'm used to work on the google.com so for work. So I can see that doing the same search on google.com or google.es, I see from Spain, here in Valencia, I see substantially the same search results. So this is something that Google was already doing. Well, or not so well, that's another thing. But I think that it's going to be, now I'm thinking about the tools that we are using for international SEO are totally depending on the regional at Google's. So I'm wondering what the tool makers are thinking of this situation, because are they going to use hundreds of VPNs and IP from Bridge, all the Internet of Things IP to understand what is the ranking, the position, the visibility of a website in the same google.com domain? this is going, maybe this is the most problematic thing that this.
Yeah. It goes back to zero click. This is zero click. Zero click is, that's why I was like, zero click. What the hell am I going to do about it? It's just, it is exactly what you said. When I say zero click, I mean no data. But the tools need the data. They need it from our site. Yeah, zero click means it's not coming from our site. Where do we find that? There's no answer. I've researched everything, and everything that I can find says it's all assumptive stuff. And I don't like assumptive stuff. I want stuff to be pulling from data from my website. And this is a massive problem. Now, going to the drop of CCTLDs and how I see that, this is actually very interesting, because now let's wheel back to what I said in the very beginning when I introduced myself. I started the days when Yahoo was a college project, but what did I use personally? I used AOL. AOL was a walled garden. We didn't have domains. It just had its own content. And we may see this repeat of history. Maybe Google's the next AOL. Maybe we're not going to get CDs in the mail, but may very well become this huge walled garden where they protect their data and they protect all their stolen content, right? So it's the British Museum, right? Just like just all of this content from all of us, and they're not really sharing data, but they will make a great ecosystem for advertisers and content publishers, especially on video and stuff like that.
Or maybe
That's the only way.
or maybe we can literally jump in the shark and thinking Google wants to be Baidu or Google wants to be Never.
Yeah, you're right. But it could very much be Baidu. It very much could be neighbor. And it's interesting because now here's the behavior of Baidu, the Chinese behavior of Baidu. Baidu is a great place to go to actually research. But typically, when they're done with the research on Baidu, they'll move over to WeChat to have the conversations with their version of social, which is kind of a combination of Reddit, combination of social, and combination of reviews, and having real conversations about what they have just researched with live people. And then they'll use another platform to buy it. Yeah. So Google could be positioning its future self to be this walled garden. And maybe they have to. If you look at ChatGPT right now, it's a walled garden. If you look at Meta's infrastructure, it is in itself moving closer and closer to its own walled garden. And, and this is kind of interesting. I mean, what is future of international SEO or SEO in general if everybody's moving into this walled garden model? What's going to happen to our own CCTLDs and everything else? Will they exist? Yeah, of course they're going to exist, because we still need a playground for our customers to go to. But how it shows up on Google, especially when conversations take place on Google in this walled garden world, it's definitely not going to be blue links. It's definitely not going to be
Oh
keywords,
yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah. Maybe less
Yeah.
blue links and more other things. So yeah, if you're in e-commerce, really mastering Google Merchant, if you have
Mm.
local visibility, really mastering Google Maps, and so on. And just last question about international SEO, which is AI as a tool that we can use in order to, for instance, improving or making faster our one of the things that usually takes a very long time, which is localization. I
Yeah.
remember in a presentation we shared at PubCon, you were presenting a fantastic tool that was
Mhm.
built for creating for localization, and how you testing it with human written localization. Substantially, it
Mhm.
was no difference. So is AI, now that we have lived the tragedy of localization made with Google Translate or Duolingo, something like this, are we going finally to a situation where many things can be fastly developed in terms of location with AI, and so to give to true translator, true professional translator, the most compelling transmedia content that must be transmedia, no, translation, localization, and I'm forgetting the third definition.
Transcreation
As
is
creation.
it? Not
So
right. Yeah.
giving to human professional writer, local
Human.
writers, the job and liberty also in terms of marketing or working really well on transcreation when needed. And leaving, let's
Yeah.
say, the heavy work of a product description, or this templated stuff that always need to be localized to the low class worker, which is
Yeah.
the AI. Are we going to
Yeah.
that direction?
Oh, 100%. I definitely think we're finally in that. We finally reached that level. So when it comes to localization, I'll just give you kind of, and maybe a lot of the guys on the call know this already, but translation and localization are very different. Translation is just a translation. It is just taking a word and translating it. But localization means intent. It means emotion. It means format adaptation. It means all of these different things. And the only way you can get to that is through understanding the country and the language and the culture, what I like to call CCL tone, right? Country, again, country, culture, and language, and understanding how that works. Translators don't really understand that. And what we have done, and this is part of our service that we get a lot of this, and we do it for really big, well known companies. We do the localization of their ads. Now, the localization of the ads have typically been done by our localization teams, translators, reviewers. The cost to do with all these different people involved to make sure that this is spot on has always been pretty expensive. Now, with the tools that we're able to create, and even though these custom GBTs that we've been able to create, they are really close. And, we are comparing them constantly. Every time we get something in, we'll have our localization teams do it. At the same time, we'll have our tools do it. And then we marry the two together to see how different they are. And I'd say, and just right now, we're probably at 95% discrepancy. So what that means, there's a 5%. There's a 5%. 5%, 100% means you've got it 100% right. 5% wrong on AI tools is a really good percentage. Translators years ago were, maybe 10 years ago were 80%. So 20% of what they did was wrong. Those are human. And now we have tools that can get this localization down to the point so fine tuned that it's 95%, and still needs human proofreaders. It still needs some tweaks, but this is like unbelievable achievement. Now, the cost of localization has also gone down by anywhere from 50 to 80%. That's huge, right? So the speed's there, the cost has gone down. I mean, this is just like the efficiencies made is absolutely amazing. And this is super exciting for me because it really allows clients are almost to the point where I can come up with a business there in Spain. And I'm like, you know what? Let's launch this in 5 countries and we'll do it in 2 weeks. And you can absolutely do it in 2 weeks. And that's unbelievable. Before the planning and everything involved with that, just you couldn't do it, you
Yes,
know?
it was the yes, classic break for
Yeah.
many companies to grow internationally,
Yeah.
because
And, just
the technical side at the end of the day can be complicated, more more complex than complicated. But
Mhm.
then, yes, or it was really very well planned in a quite a long Gantt range of time,
Yeah.
or things usually weren't never going to be completed then. Or
Exactly.
rolled out made in a half, in a third, and we will finish and then never finish because we have to update. Yes, it was really complicated. And I see the
Mhm.
same now with AI. It's really helping making things faster. Obviously,
Mhm.
then you must also have the experience of years of working on these kind of things in order to immediately detect that if that 5% of mistakes is there, it is not in the key pages because
Yeah.
even if it's only the 5%, if it's in the most important pages, it's a dramatic output. But yes,
Right.
yes, it's one
Yeah.
of the things where AI is really as a tool. It's totally an advantage for us
It
SEOs.
has. And the presentation that I did for the audiences, the insight was actually very interesting because I took a song of Voilà, which is a French song, and it's meaningful. Voilà is a song about vulnerability. And if you're French and you hear that song, it does it may bring tears to your eyes. Right. So what we did was we translated that just with the translator and then we played it again. And to an English audience, it's like, okay, it definitely has some nice words. It definitely doesn't bring tears to our eyes, but I can see that it's a nice song. But then we took it to the next level. We took it to the localization level. How do we actually localize emotion? And we localized emotion. We actually redid we rebuilt the words to capture the hearts of an English speaker. And still to this day, when I send my mom that song, she tears up and starts crying. And it's like, wow, I can actually translate an emotion. And that's pretty darn cool. Another thing that I did, and I talked about this before, now it's kind of next level, and I loved doing this. And so basically, I use character.ai and chat GPT to create focus groups of different audiences in different countries. And for example, I had this backpack, it's a snowboarding backpack. And what I did was I programmed a Spanish skier going to Switzerland and meeting other Swiss skiers to talk about backpack and use their own tone and their thoughts and their own behaviors. And we used all these psychographic data that we got on each culture to program these little character.ai bots. And when these AI bots got together to talk about this backpack, they created content that they all can agree on, that they all liked. And that content became a content strategy. So now reel back with what I said earlier, that how do we do our content strategy? Now we don't have keyword data in the center of our customer journeys. This might be the opportunity. You may need to just
Yeah,
program
totally.
AI bots to create
Yeah,
this.
yes, totally. This is a very cool idea, sincerely. I honestly didn't thought about it. Also because, for instance, in the specific character AI usually are coming out read also the very dark side of character AI. But in using this way, yes, it would be great. Also maybe for testing the assumption very well before deploying it. So it's
Yes,
a very cheap way to A/B test before rolling out something.
100%. And you could do it by culture, so it's just like,
Yeah, that's really great idea. Okay, Michael, I would love to talk again still for another hour eventually, but we are already reaching 1 hour of recording. But I don't want to leave you before asking you very quick fireside question about things you like, things you don't like. So in a way that the people watching us can know you better as a person and not just as a professional. So let's
very
say,
nice.
no, we are not going to be
Yeah, I get it. I can
uncomfortable
tell you.
question. We are not going to
No,
be
it's not. I
uncomfortable.
love that. I
No,
love
yeah.
that. Cool.
Let's say, for instance, what is the first things you like to do in the morning?
Oh,
Apart.
it's definitely, yeah. My morning routine is it's really the process of making my coffee. Just like I've got an espresso and I got my lavazza and my, beans, and I've got a great espresso machine. And I just like that whole process of making my coffee in the morning. And there it is right here in my cup. And I love it. It starts the day fresh for me. So that's kind of the one thing. And for those also, kind of a little bit to get to know me and why I do international and why it really is in my DNA. My mom's side is Greek. My father's side is French and Italian. And so I grew up in a very multicultural family. I went to Greek Orthodox Church. I went to all the Greek events. but here in the US. So I grew up this way. My parents separated when I was 1, and my dad married a German, Helga Fritz. So now I've got this German, French, Italian, and of course, Greek side in my DNA as a culture growing up. So I've been exposed as an American of all these different cultures. I ended up going to college in France, and then I moved to Hungary, where I had my ex-wife who married a Hungarian, and we had kids here. And my kids, I swear to God, are the most international kids that you can ever imagine. They were so culturally down. And when we have family reunions, we've got so many different cultures and different cuisines and foods in it. It's fantastic. So if you're wondering, why I do and why I love what I do, it's really because it's the root of who I am. It's how I was raised,
Yeah, totally. Well, it's a little bit different for me because I always say that I'm Italian. I started doing SEO for Italy, for Italian clients. And I mean, Italian is, as you know, a wonderful language, but it's spoken only in Italy. So, I mean, every company, every business company wants to expand themselves, at least have English, an English version. So for us in Italy, eh, international SEO is a synonym of SEO. So that's why. And another question, just another question. So talking about of all these cultures you are that are in your DNA. So for each one of them, what thing would you choose? Or the first thing coming to your mind related to each one of these culture that are in your DNA?
Yeah, that's a good question because it's just, I think I'm very blessed because on my southern Mediterranean side, I have got heart, right? And so heart equals passion, and that heart and passion, number one, people are magnetic to it. And I don't mean to it. People who know me, I've got genuine heart when I say what I mean, and you can feel that. You can feel it when you speak to me, feel it when you meet me, and it's very true. On my dad's side, however, I've got the conservativeness on the other side of this culture, that is very not it's almost anti-heart. It's like business sense, this is how you do business. This is how you do things structured. This is the right way to do things. This is when I say I'm blessed because I was exposed to both sides. And for me growing up, I kind of tried to grab the best I can on both of these sides. Notice my hands are moving a lot. This is again, you can see it, but yeah, my hands. I'm holding my hands down here. You can't say.
Yes, just to end with a love. I'm Italian, so I use a lot, obviously, my hand. And I almost got into troubles in Seattle. I was there for a Moscow. And you know that as Italian, when someone is asking for something like money, our gesture is this. Without obviously it's like a gun. So the guy looking at me was starting to get angry. So, yes, I need to hold my hands too. Thank you, Michael, for having joined me in this wonderful conversation. And I'm sure that all our listeners and watchers have taken at least something for them to think about, both in terms of work and both in terms of personal growth. And you, dear listeners, just remember to do me this little favor is just take you 5 seconds, click on subscribe and ring on the bell so you will be notified about the new episodes that are going to come with other great guests as our Michael Bonfils.
Thank you guys. Molto grazie.